Golf.
Seeing none. Adoption of agenda. I have a mover, Councillor Hanley, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence, that the council approved the agenda as presented. Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have a question on one item. Should I wait till we get to it?
No,
Or
do
question it now?
We'll do it now. Go ahead now.
It's 11A. It's a motion for support from Councillor Kenny. I don't have an issue with the motion. I just have an issue with there being no notice of motion on this. Is one not required?
I'll verify this again with the clerk. Go ahead, Joanne.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it should have been under notice of motion, but if council wishes, they can waive the procedure bylaw to have it presented today.
Can I speak on that?
Go ahead.
I asked to bring this up last week, and I was told by staff that we should get a lawyer's opinion. The city did get a lawyer's opinion, and it came back that I could bring it through as a statement of councillor. So I would like to know if we got a lawyer's opinion that was paid for by the city after I requested it last meeting. Why are we going to go against the lawyer's opinion that says I can bring it through as a statement of councillor? It's not a reconsideration.
No, it didn't mean that it had to be brought in as a statement, councillor. There's two different items here, whether it's a reconsideration. Go ahead to Joanne.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the legal opinion was to know if the motion was a reconsideration or not. It was not a reconsideration, but it still should have been brought forward under notice of motion today and then discussed on April 5th.
That is okay. Councillor Kenny, go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
So can we waive procedure on this if Councillor Kenny wants to put it through, or is that what you would like to do, Councillor Kenny, or?
Sorry, I'm having some issues here. I would like to bring it up tonight. I tried last meeting, and like I say, I was told by staff that it was a reconsideration and I couldn't do it. We had to do some paper, check into it. We checked into it, and this is what I was told to do. So whatever I have to do, I'd like to bring it up tonight.
Anyways, go ahead, Councillor Longo. I see you had your hand up again.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't want to create an issue here. It's not about Councillor Kenny or his motion, in my opinion. This is more about public awareness. Again, we're supposed to be open and transparent. This is a major item. There's nobody who knew this was coming up at a regularly scheduled time, and that's why we have notices of motion, to make the public aware. So we can go ahead and waive procedural bylaw, but what we're doing is we're discussing a major item without giving the public proper notice. So if council wants to do that, by all means they can, but I'm not sure it's the best idea.
Right. So, Councillor Kenny, can we do notice of motion? You bring it next meeting. It's 2 weeks. It's not time sensitive. What?
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And there's one other change on the adoption of agenda, and that is that 15A DF 2022-06 has been pulled and will be brought back at the next meeting. And that's a consent report. Okay? That's it under adoption of agenda. So I had a mover, Councillor Hanley, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Adoption of minutes. I have a mover, Councillor Wilson, and a seconder, Councillor Decker, that council approved the minutes as presented March 8th, 2022. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's report. Effective March 15th at 12:01 a.m., Regional Chair Bradley and Niagara's 12 mayors made the joint decision to end the municipal states of emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic as they were no longer necessary. They had been in place since April 3rd, 2020. A full media release is available on our website and Facebook page. We want to offer a sincere thanks to all Niagara residents who followed all the public health safety measures and did their part during these uncertain and difficult times. The sacrifices that were made helped to save lives. Please remember that the pandemic is not over. We must now learn how to transition to a living with and managing COVID-19. Please continue to follow all public health safety measures as we move forward together. Effective March 21st, most mask mandates ended, including schools, restaurants, gyms, and stores. Masks are still required on public transit, long-term care and retirement homes, healthcare settings, shelters, jails, and congregate care and living settings. For more details, please visit the provincial and Niagara Region websites. In partnership with the Niagara Ontario Health Team, Niagara Health have launched Niagara Virtual Urgent Care, a safe and convenient service for adults with urgent medical issues that are not life-threatening. Through secure video, Niagara Virtual Urgent Care provides access to a local emergency department nurse practitioner or physician from Niagara Health for nausea, infections, minor COVID-19 symptoms, and other non-emergency injuries or illnesses. Appointments can be made online at urgentcareontario.ca. Bookings are available on a first-come, first-served basis Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. An important reminder that primary care providers, family doctors, should always be the first point of contact for care. If residents cannot access their primary care provider in a timely manner or do not have a primary care provider, this service is a suitable option. On Thursday, March 10th, the Federal Minister of Transport, Omar Algebra, visited the Thorold Multimodal Hub. Economic Development Manager Marco Marino and I were joined by Hopa Port's President CEO Ian Hamilton, BioVald Canada representatives, MPs Vance Badaway and Chris Biddle, Regional Chair Bradley, City of Welland Mayor Frank Campion, Niagara Region Economic Development Director George Spezza, and representatives from the City of Port Colborne as well as local businesses. We toured the facility and had a roundtable discussion sharing the Niagara Port's vision, Niagara's strengths, its multimodal and industrial assets, and the importance of the Welland Canal Trade Corridor. The Thorold Multimodal Hub continues to gain traction, and we look forward to its continued success as well as future tenant announcements. The City of Thorold Age Friendly Committee and Thorold Senior Citizens Association have partnered to recognize two seniors, one with the 2022 Thorold Senior of the Year Award and one with the 2022 Thorold Senior Citizens Association Senior of the Year Award. Nominations opened on February 22nd and close on April 15th. The award ceremony will take place at the Ontario Paper Thorold Senior Centre on Wednesday, June 15th, beginning at 11:30 a.m. Nomination forms can be picked up and returned to Thorold City Hall, Thorold Senior Citizen Centre, Thorold Public Library, and the Thorold Community Activities Group. Completed forms can also be mailed to Thorold City Hall, Post Office Box 1044,
So you're going with mommy?
35.
Are you going with mom?
What?
Okay, so you're gonna be in your room?
Marco,
Okay,
Marco.
I'm here if you need me.
3540 Schmone Parkway, Thorold, Ontario. L2V4A7, attention Deputy Clerk. Meals on Wheels. March for Meals is an annual event to increase awareness and community engagement with local Meals on Wheels providers across North America. This campaign is intended to generate public awareness, recruit new volunteers, and show others that meal delivery is not just a service, but an integral component of friendly visits. Delivery celebrations will take place this year from Monday, March 21st to Friday, March 25th. Thank you, Councillor Sentence, for taking part in this year's event. Garden Fest, April 1st to 3rd. The community event is hosted by the Knights of Columbus in the Holy Rosary Hall parking lot off Sullivan Avenue. This charity fundraiser will feature high-quality grass seed fertilizer and compost, as well as hosting a bottle drive and collecting non-perishable food items. Mark your calendars, that's April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. On Saturday, March 19th, I attended the last ever public skate in the James White Arena and shared stories with many of those in attendance. Ran into Councillor DeRose and his family, Regional Councillor Whalen, and former arena manager Bill Riddle, as well as many others. At the same time in the Doherty Arena, our rep under 21 Double B Thorold Blackhawk team was playing the Ingersoll Express in the OMHA Playdowns and won the series opener. The next day, they swept the series with a 2-1 overtime victory in Ingersoll. They now advance to the OMHA Championship weekend in Whitby, April 8th to 10th, which is a tournament format weekend featuring 8 teams. Our under-18 team also qualified for the OMHA Championships and played the weekend of April 1st in Windsor, again tournament format with 12 teams. Our under-11 team is also still alive and competing to move on to the OMHA Championship weekend in their age group. I would like to thank all our community partners for the implementation of a successful St. Patrick's Day and weekend strategy. Brock University, Niagara College, BUSU, bylaw enforcement from the City of Thorold, St. Catharines, and the Niagara region, as well as Brock Off-Campus Patrol and Thorold Fire and Emergency Services, all work collaboratively to ensure an early presence in all areas and enforcement throughout the day. We experienced some concerns, but they were quickly addressed, and I want to thank everyone for a great team effort. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. And now we're going to move on to a public meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
could I just make an announcement on behalf of Tim Whalen, the chair of the Wall of Fame Sports Committee, and the rest of the committee, just that we're accepting applications till March 31st for this year's inductions in June. We've got a lot of them so far, but we're anxious to get some more in. Thank you.
thank you, Councillor DeRose, for raising that. Public meeting. Proposed official plan amendment, 2015 Allenport Road. Opening remarks and purpose of the meeting. The public meeting is being held pursuant to the provisions of Section 17 and 22 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 as amended. The applicant seeks approval to amend the City of Thorold official plan by exempting 2015 Allenport Road from policy B246B of the plan, which requires a lot to contain an existing industrial use prior to severance. Council will receive and consider all comments received at the public meeting. No decision on the applications is being made this evening. Official plan amendment. Any of the following no later than 20 days after giving notice may appeal the decision by filing with the city the notice of appeal that must set out the reasons for the appeal accompanied by the tribunal's fee. The applicant, a person or public body who before the amendment and bylaw were passed made oral submissions at the public meeting or written submissions to council, and the minister. If a person or public body did not make an oral submission at the public meeting or provide a written submission to council before the bylaw was passed, the tribunal will determine if there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Up first, presentation from applicant's planning consultant, Craig Rowe, Upper Canada Consultants. Is Craig there? Craig.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
I see Matt. Are you Craig, or it says Matt?
It is me, sir. I'm bouncing between council meetings right now, so I'm borrowing my colleague's computer,
Okay,
so that's why it says Matt. But
it is
Craig indeed.
It is Craig, though.
It's Craig. Thank you, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. I'm just going to share my screen and bring up a little quick presentation here. Let's make sure everyone can see that. Great.
Yeah.
So I'm here on behalf of the landowners right now. This is the first step in a small development that's going to be occurring on the property. And that first step is an official plan amendment. And you may remember, well, let's not go that far yet. To begin with, though, this is 2015 Allenport Road. So this is the subject lands. They're south of Barron Road, which is here, and they're located here on the west side of Allenport Road. And then this is the CN rail corridor that's behind it. So they are in the urban area. They're industrially designated and zoned lands, and they do not have municipal servicing. So you may remember the application that I actually brought forward about a year ago for properties up on Old Thorold Stone Road, where our client at the time ran into the same sort of issue where we have this policy B246B in the city's official plan that requires the establishment of an industrial use on industrial designated and zoned lands before you can sever off a new lot for development. So that's captured here, as you can see on the slide, number B. So the intent is that through the planning process, we'd be taking off about a 10-acre parcel at the south end of this property for industrial uses. Preliminarily, it's to be a contractor's yard for a local business, but we need to, of course, secure the official plan amendment first in order to be able to even apply for the severance to create the lot. So as we gone over before with this council, the impact of policy B246 is basically that it precludes any permitted or appropriate industrial development of land that's designated or zoned otherwise to occur. So in this case, we have industrial land user who's willing to sever a portion of this industrially designated and zoned property and establish a new local business here, but they can't do that because the policies prohibit them from doing that until such time that an industrial use is established on the property to begin with. Currently, there's only a legal non-conforming residential dwelling that's on the property, which is intended to remain. So this would put an onus on our client to have to buy the whole property and establish their use, even though they only need 10 acres of the 12.2 hectare land area. So really, this policy is continuing to limit investment in the marketability of lands within the city's industrial areas. So our justification is similar to what we had on Old Thorold Stone Road. It's not reasonable to require the existence of a permitted use to enable a severance. It's otherwise limiting employment growth in the establishment of uses that have been designated in the official plan approved by this council and brought forward in the now approved zoning bylaw. We can't establish any of these uses and follow through on the will of council until we're granted the permission to create this severance. And by granting this official plan amendment, we have the ability to immediately undertake the consent and move into a site plan process and bring this business to town. So as of the time of preparing the presentation, we didn't have any objections received from any of the circulated agencies or the utility companies, and we hadn't seen any public comments, nor had we been contacted by any members of the public asking us for more information about our application. So in terms of our next steps, we would be reviewing any comments that you may have for us this evening, as well as anyone from the public, reviewing those agency comments, making any changes to our plan or amendment as required. Then council will consider this application, and if approved, we would then be in a position to immediately file for our consent application, create the new lot, and then undertake the necessary pre-consultation and move into our site plan process to get those that industrial use established on that portion of the site. So I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Craig, and I'll open the floor for questions. I got Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the presenter. Thank you, Craig. Are you able to tell us what business is wanting to come here?
It will be expansion for Niagara Concrete, who is local.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're the primary that would be coming in. We're in discussions about if there's any opportunities to diversify that, but as it stands right now, Niagara Concrete is looking at this property.
Thank you very much.
Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Craig, thank you. Craig, you said urban area. Did you mean rural? In your presentation, you mentioned the area, you said urban.
Yes, it's within the city's urban area, but it is zoned and designated rural. So it doesn't have any servicing, but it is within the city's urban area. It's just unserviced, which is why it's rural industrial designated and zoned.
Okay, are you expecting services from the city?
No, we would be doing this on private water, private sanitary.
Thank you, Craig.
Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Rowe. Just a quick question, the retained portion, are there any plans for that you could share with us or not?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, there's no plans for that. The owners will be keeping the dwelling But the benefit is that through the comprehensive zoning bylaw, that property now has an M4 zoning. So should at some time they choose not to reside there anymore or sell the property, it could be appropriately developed for industrial uses. And we don't have any outright concerns about the compatibility between that. It's something that we can manage through our site plan process. And also we're locating the development as far away as possible. The frontage of that property is about 300 meters. So it's a pretty significant separation.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could ask, so does the owner of the residence still own and retain the entire property? Because I know on Realtor.ca the property had been listed for sale at $100,000 per acre. So has the property been sold, or the intention is to come here so you can get the severance so the property can be sold as displayed with Realtor.ca?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't know the exact details of the agreement between our client and the owner. But in terms of what the intent is that those lands, we would have to secure this official plan amendment so we could create the severance to create the conveyable parcel of land so that it could be sold to Niagara Concrete.
Okay, because I noticed there was two pieces of property there. One had a frontage of 371 feet, 9.44 acres. And yours is the one, because it's in the 10 acre, but the other one was 382 feet frontage, 10.49 acres?
Through Mr.
Or
Mayor.
both properties?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, I haven't seen those listings myself. What we did in that demonstration sketch is we just roughly put into our civil design and showed the approximate 10-acre parcel. The details of the severance would of course go to the Committee of Adjustment. We just wanted to demonstrate for council this evening so that you understood that the approval of the official plan amendment itself allows us to go and undertake a severance of that property.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, I appreciate that because they're listing the property and making it look like a severance is there, but reading it, it states that that's one of the issues. And I just wanted to know if that was a circumstance. Thanks very much for your answer. Appreciate it.
Are there any further questions for Craig? Seeing none, Craig, I want to thank you for your presentation, and you can go back to your other meeting now.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Have a great night.
Okay, presentation from city staff. I have Mallory Smith, intermediate planner, who's going to speak next. Go ahead, Mallory.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen here. Great. So this presentation is about 2015 Allenport Road, the official plan amendment that Craig just told us about. So the property is located on the south side of Barron Road, west of Allenport Road. It is approximately 12.2 hectares in land area, and it has approximately 430 meters of frontage along Allenport Road. The property backs onto the active CN Railway corridor on the north and west side of the lot, and the lands currently contain a single detached residential dwelling. The owner of the property is proposing the severance of one lot for future industrial development as shown. The proposed lot satisfies the physical area and frontage requirements set out in Part 8 of Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 60/2019 for rural industrial M4 lots. However, it does need relief from policy B2.4.6b, which requires that the retained lot is currently occupied by an existing industrial use. The property is designated in the official plan as rural industrial. The proposed amendment exempts the subject property from policy B246B, which requires an existing rural industrial use to be located on the lands prior to severance. As no existing industrial use is present on the subject lands at this time, the amendment has been filed to exempt the property. No use. The concrete business is being proposed as use at this time. However, any use will be subject to site plan control. Within the recent approval of the city's comprehensive zoning bylaw, the lot is zoned M4 rural industrial, and the dwelling is now considered to be legal non-conforming. The existing dwelling shall be retained and will remain after the proposed severance. At this time, we have received no comments from the public. And for more information, it can be found at the city's website under Planning and Development, under Open House and Public Meetings. And our next steps is to bring a recommendation report forward at the next council meeting, a future council meeting.
Thank you, Mallory. And now I'll open the floor for questions for Mallory. Is there any questions for Mallory? Seeing none, thank you, Mallory. And
Thank you.
we'll move on to public participation. Public input. Now, at this time, is there anyone online who wishes to speak on the applications received? Please indicate to the clerk your desire to speak. Please provide your name and address for the public record. Is there anyone on queue? No? I'll read it one more time then. Public input. Now, at this time, is there anyone online who wishes to speak on the applications received? Please indicate to the clerk your desire to speak. Please provide your name and address for the public record. And there is none. Okay, closing remarks and closing of the meeting. This fulfills the requirements of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13, pursuant to Section 22. Council will consider staff's recommendation report at a future meeting date. Please provide your contact information and indicate to the clerk at clerk@thorold.ca. That's clerk@thorold.ca if you wish to receive notice of council's decision. Alternatively, a letter requesting to receive notice of council's decision may be sent to the clerk. As such, the public meeting portion of this application is now closed. Okay, now I'm going to move on to motions for council support. And as we mentioned, the first one's withdrawn and will come up under notice of motion. And the second one, 11B, City of Thorold, I have a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Longo, and I'll turn this over to Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas World Autism Day will be recognized on April 2nd, 2022 in Canada, thanks to Senator Jim Munson's bill, S-206, an act respecting World Autism Awareness Day. And whereas autism spectrum disorder, ASD, affects more than 135,000 Ontarians, autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder affecting 1 in every 66 Canadian children, and as well as their friends, family, and community. And approximately 1 to 2% of the Canadian population is on the autism spectrum. Whereas ASD is a spectrum disorder, which means it not only manifests itself differently in every individual to whom it appears, but its characteristics will change over the life of each person as well. A child on the autism spectrum will become an adult on the autism spectrum, and whereas Autism Ontario is a leading source of information and referral on autism, and one of the largest collective voices representing the autism community since 1973, Autism Ontario has been providing support, information, and opportunities for thousands of families and individuals across the province. And whereas Autism Ontario is dedicated to increasing public awareness about autism and the day-to-day issues faced by individuals with autism, their families, and the professionals with whom they interact, the association and its regions share common goals of providing information and education, supporting research, and advocating for programs and services for the autism community. And whereas, well, I guess this is you. You want me to read the rest?
No, go on. Whereas I, Mayor Terry Ugolini, do hereby declare April 2nd as World Autism Day. So that is the motion for council support, and that's why I didn't mention it in my mayor's remarks, because I knew this was coming forward. So is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Motion to receive and file minutes or adopt recommendations of council committees and boards. That council, mover Councillor DeRose, seconder Councillor Neal, that minutes to review for information purposes, that council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council boards as presented, 12A1 Age Friendly Committee, 12A2 Thorough Business Improvement Area Board of Management. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There's no minutes to endorse, no recommendations from the minutes to endorse. Statements by Councillor. Councillor DeRose, update on Rolling Meadows Outdoor Rink. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, I just wanted to get staff's feedback. It doesn't have to be tonight. It could be next meeting. Just about the an update on how the Rolling Meadows Outdoor Rink went. I was just a little concerned because I had a lot of reports from kids in our school that live in the neighborhood that they weren't really able to skate there pretty well, hardly at all. So I was just curious how many skating days roughly, or how successful it was, if you could just summarize it. But I just want to plan for next sitting council for next year, if it's palatable to do it again. I had recommended, I thought it was, in my opinion, it was $5,000 we could have spent on free skating at the arenas, but that's passed now. So I just, and I know it's basically due to the conditions of the weather conditions, snow. It was a lot of snow during the skating time this year. So I was just wondering if I can get some feedback from staff, and if it's something you have to come back with, that's fine. Just so we can know going forward whether it was worth doing it. A lot of kids ended up, unfortunately, skating on one of those ponds that I think are dangerous with the moving water. So that's another concern that I have, because the students were telling me that. But anyway, yeah, so could I just have staff let us know how it went, or what their opinion was, if we should go forward with that again?
Curtis, I'll turn it over to you. Curtis Dray, Manager of Community Services.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for the question, Councillor DeRose. So the concept of the ice pond or the skating rink was very successful, and I think it was well received. However, what we discovered with that particular location is that we had a lot of snow drifting across that field, and it was hard to maintain it. So I think a lot of the kids actually, there's a different surface a little further into the subdivision. And I've heard that a lot of them went to that one because it was a little more protected. So it was a great idea, great concept, and it sounds like it was the location was less than desirable. So the total cost on that rink to date, we've spent about $2,200. But as you noted, we got staff pulled away for the snow removal in other areas of the city based on that large storm that we had. So I would say I would recommend doing it in a different location. But again, I think we just have to be very selective of where we do it, make sure it's relatively protected from the elements, and that we minimize the drifting.
Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate the answer. And Mayor, could I start my second motion?
No, I think.
Or my second?
Councillor, I got a few comments on that.
Oh, so you got some questions. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Councillor Hanley.
Myself, as Councillor Jones pointed out, if I could, is that it was a weather factor, but we must remember, we discussed this some time ago, because other municipalities were doing it, of trying to create some outdoor rinks where we could get volunteers to man them, like as was done in previous years at McAdam Park or in Port Robinson East, whatever. And myself personally, I'd like to see us expand upon the project, but that's a discussion for a later day. But, overall, when we tried to get it up and running, we got 2 feet of snow. And then it acts as an incubator and that stuff, where the underneath surface becomes like a slush. So, we tried, but the expense was minimal. But, there's concerns on both ends. And like Councillor DeRose said, maybe we could be out to spend it somewhere else. But I think, we got to remember, too, that weather isn't what it used to be, and we only have a short time frame now for outdoor rinks. And I think we should expand upon, like I said, but that's discussion for another day. But overall, we give it a shot, so I give them credit for that.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Curtis. Yeah, I had some good feedback about the rink. People thought that was a great idea to have it outdoors, especially with COVID. And then just a few people that it was really difficult to find the location of it. But yeah, I agree. Maybe next year, a location that might be a little more that might be easier to find. And I think people really enjoy skating outside. So yeah, that was a great idea. And then hopefully next year, you know, try it again. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. Okay, Councillor DeRose, you're up next on Canada Summer Games.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to know, I know it's going to be 35, it's supposed to be 35 million earmarked to run the 14 days of the Canada Summer Games. I just, are we responsible for any of that money? That's my first question. And just where will this money, where's this money coming from? And is that number accurate that I was given?
Curtis, do you want to speak on that? I know that we're not responsible for running of the games, just so you can know that. And secondly,
Okay.
a lot of that money I know came from federal and provincial governments, but I'll let Curtis speak on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I don't have a lot of details on that $35 million. I'm going to hand this one over to Jeff, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure where the $35 million comes from. There was a reference to $35 million in the last council update report. Is that what you were thinking of, Councillor DeRose?
Yeah, I've read also, not only that report, but I've read that it's 35 million to run the games. And I was just curious, but I don't need the answer tonight. If you can look into it, maybe I'm misinformed, but I thought that was the amount that they stated to operate the games. And I thought that was excessive. I just wanted to make sure thorough taxpayers weren't on the hook for, any of that. That's all. But you can get back to me, because I may be incorrect in my information.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, if we could share the source of the information, I'll be happy to chase it down for you.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Councillor Longo.
But yeah, it was media. It was the media.
Councillor Longo, go ahead.
The newspapers. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always have this at my fingertip. So the Niagara Sport Commission 2021 Summer Games budget for operating is $34,899,000, and there's a breakdown of where it all comes from in that budget.
Thank you.
Can you repeat that, Councillor Longo?
Yeah, it's the Niagara Sport Commission 2021 Canada Summer Game budget. It's in the Niagara Regional package that was passed by Niagara Region. That's the information I have. I'm not sure how accurate it is to date, but that's what I had.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll look that up. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor DeRose, you're up on the Airbnb issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I just wanted to, I'm a little concerned about Airbnbs that are popping up in nice residential neighborhoods in Thorold. And I've gotten calls about some horror stories. It's been going on for about a year. I've been getting these calls, and this past week, over a week ago, I got some disturbing from a family that complained about a specific address, which I passed on to bylaw and planning. So I'm just wondering if I can ask for, if it needs to be a report to come back. I know I think I don't know if it's in discussion or consent reports tonight, you're talking about the short-term rentals, but I'm more concerned about these weekend rentals. I don't know, would that be considered short-term? A question to Jason.
Jason, are you on? Yep, there he is. Go ahead, Jason.
Is that what you mean by short-term, is the Airbnbs?
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. An Airbnb and companies similar like that would be considered short-term rentals. We do currently license them under our residential rental licensing bylaw. So if council wishes to have this reviewed further, I would just ask council to provide a little bit more information as to what sort of issues they would like to see addressed.
Okay,
Thank you.
So
thank you, Jason.
Can we get a wholesome report back, Jason? Maybe consulting other municipalities that have put in some regulations, and could it be done in a staff report? Would that be okay?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to bring a report back.
Okay.
But I would find it useful to just be able to get a little bit more information from council as to what types of issues they would like to see addressed in addition to what we are licensing currently.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Jason, what I'm referring to, and I think I mentioned this to you in a conversation, there's many communities that have banned them from residential areas. Just for what they bring to the neighborhood. I wouldn't want one next door to me, you know, and I don't think anybody would. But there are people now that are stuck with these, and all they are is they're landlords that are, you know, I'll just generalize it, but they're from out of town. They have no vested interest in Thorold. They couldn't care less about the neighbors' children being exposed to late night parties, because that's what it is. It's a big party for the weekend. And I you know, we have enough to deal with student rentals. I just think this is adding some more icing on the cake that's making it less palatable to live in Thorold for families. And, you know, for example, the calls I'm getting, I looked them up, they're advertised as sleeping 10 and more. And there's no benefit to the residents. So I'm a little concerned. And so that's my main, I know you said you didn't think we can channel them away from residential areas, but some communities have done it. If they can do it, my question is, why can't we do that? So that's my biggest concern is just not allowing them in residential neighborhoods.
I think
go ahead, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
I think a big concern is there's more of them popping up. It's becoming a bigger concern. There's no question.
As soon as they hear that it's profitable, people are jumping all over it.
So, Jason, what direction would you need more? Because I'd like to do it with the staff report, and then have a wholesome debate when you bring a report back.
Yes, I'm satisfied with that. I can do some research and bring a report back to council at a later date for further discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Hanley. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment on that. To me, I would think if you're having short-term rentals, like being able to rent for a night here and a night there, like they do in Airbnbs, wouldn't it fall under like hotel or a motel type of business? I would think. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there for Jason would probably know better, or maybe you can look into that and see how it should be formed in a bylaw. Because it does seem a little bit crazy to me. I know there's some people that do it and they have like kind of a short-term, long-term rental, like you can stay there for multiple weeks. So maybe they're just changing tenants once a month or every few months, but that's every night or weekend does seem a little bit crazy to have in the middle of a residential area. That's my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Hanley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the one thing with that is it's a commercial entity. So once you advertise, I would believe, in a residential zone on an open market that you're doing this, it now becomes a commercial entity, and I would believe that residential areas, aren't they limited to the amount of square footage you can use for commercial in operating a business within your own home, which is 10% of floor space, I think it used to be at one time. So I believe Airbnbs in essence are probably illegal, because if you look at it, if they're advertising that they're selling, say, in Strawberry Street or, you know, Raspberry Trail, whatever, and that stuff, a resident that says Airbnb, it's advertised on Airbnb site for 10 people, short term. It's a commercial business being run in a residential area, 100% commercial. That's illegal. I believe that's what we need to be looking at, because when you're openly advertising that you're running a business, it's different if you're a resident and you're living there and you're operating a business within your residence. But when you're operating 100% commercial business within a residential zone, that in itself, I believe, should be enough to curtail them. Enforce it. Go online, read who's advertising it, and that's what my belief is. Whether I know if that's the way it works or not, but that's why I look at it, because if we look at our bylaws, you're allowed to run a business within a residential property, but it's limited to a specific amount of square footage, not allowing a residential building to be used 100% for commercial means. And that's what an Airbnb is in a residential areas. That's what my look at it is. So whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. So,
thank you.
But we need to have some type of report come back. But that's the way I read it.
Thank you.
It's an illegal business in a residential area.
So Councillor DeRose will get a staff report brought back. I can't move or Councillor DeRose. Can I get a seconder for that, please? Councillor Wilson. Any further discussion? And I know that every municipality is struggling with this, and not in Niagara. So and it's been in the press a lot. So anyway, so
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Councillor DeRose, and thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason and Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Up next, I have Councillor Hanley on Farmers Market. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, prior to, or some council may remember, in 2020, we had a little brief discussion about possibly doing a farmer's market. And since then, I'm sure that many councillors are aware of a business by the name of Small Scale Farms on Highway 20. And she has approached me, Renee Delaney, the owner there, and asking that possibly to starting a farmer's market in Thorold. And I thought that seeing what we're going to be occurring in our municipality in the short term, the Canada Summer Games are coming. We're going to have the beautiful Beaver Dams Park done. I know when we discussed it at that time, when it was come to fruition, it would be maybe a possibility of having a farmer's market there. So I'm wanting to, Mr. Mayor, I know currently I have to do everything through you because I'm bound by a integrity commissioner deal. And I believe that we can make this happen. I have interested parties already. I've given them some discussion as maybe a possible site to let councillor know. I'm looking at, initially, I'm thinking because it would be during the summer months, to start, we could use the arena parking lot as the initial phase. We're doing a significant amount of work at Battle of Beaver Dams Park, and our idea is to get people to come downtown. I thought, the parking lot by the fire hall, but I know that the extensive amount of commercial businesses and residents that we have in the area, that probably wouldn't be feasible to close off 50 spots. So I'm just wanting to let council know that I will be putting a notice of motion forward tonight too in regards to it, if need be. And that, Mr. Mayor, we somehow maybe to get an open channel with someone that I could discuss with and organize a meeting with, be it the CAO, whoever, and we somehow do it so I don't have to continuously send you an email, because I believe this is something that we can bring to fruition and throw it. And I look at it this way too, with the ever cost of food nowadays and transportation, the farmers basically the fuel costs we get them, but these are a lot of natural foods. They're not using herbicides or pesticides. And they're not affected by the ever increasing, because fertilizer, if you've seen lately on the stock market, has gone extremely expensive. So, I'm looking at that if there's an opportunity that the city can open up and something we haven't had in this municipality that I can remember for a long, long time. The last time I remember a farmer's market was behind the Legion, where they actually had what they call the farmer's market there.
Okay,
so I just wanted to bring that forward and get council's input on it and see, but I believe that if this, I don't know if you know Renee Delaney, whatever, but Small Scale Farms and what they've accomplished in a short period of time, and I think it would be a great endeavor for the city of Thorold to engage in, seeing that the business is located in Thorold on Lundy's Lane. So
thank you.
It's open for discussion, and I'll do a notice of motion later on, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Is Curtis on? Curtis, do you want to comment on that? We've done any groundwork on something like this? I don't know. That's why I want to ask.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I believe what the council is proposing would be a special event if it was done by a third party, which we do have a package that could be filled out that they could apply to do a special event within Thorold. Internally, we are reviewing it. And looking at options to do that under the city's umbrella. But again, I'll allow Jeff to comment further.
Jeff, go ahead.
On a weekly basis, we look at Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we have a resolution on the books to come back with a report for a farmer's market. We've set it aside because of COVID and that type of thing. I think our last discussion with the BIA was would they support this type of thing? And the feedback that I got verbally was that they would support anything that brought more people to the downtown core. So it's an interesting initiative that couldn't take place last year, but might be able to take place this year if we approach it in the right way. And if we are working with people who have experience with this, that could save us a lot of time and energy.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Neal, you had your hand up, and then Councillor Sentence. Don't worry, everybody will get a chance to speak. So Councillor Neal, you first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did, through the city, run a farmer's market. I'm going to say 12, 14 years ago now, but we ran it next to the fire hall downtown Thorold, took over about half of the parking spots that you see there, and ran a very successful farmer's market for about 3 or 4 years. And of course, there's not lots of expense, but there's some expense because you have to hire a person to look after it and that type of thing. But it is an excellent way of bringing people downtown Thorold. And if this person that Councillor Hanley is talking about is willing to help spearhead it downtown Thorold, and I know the BIA, I saw in the minutes, the BIA has discussed it at their last meeting. I'd enjoyed seeing another farmer's market in downtown Thorold.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I agree with you, Councillor Hanley. I thought we gave direction to staff to look at something at Battle of Beaver Dams before with Renee in there, so that it didn't hurt her business on her days. So yeah, absolutely. If she's willing to run it and that's a connection, then I think Battle of Beaver Dams is a perfect spot to have it for our downtown when it's done, and to have her in there would be great. So whatever you need, but I think they already have that direction, but I'm not sure. But thanks, Jeff. Thanks.
Councillor Decker, and then Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would fully support that. I loved the farmer's market when it was by the fire hall. And I think that would be a great incentive to bring people downtown. And people love going to the market, so I fully support that, and hopefully we can get it going. I think the park would be great, or somewhere down at the end of Front Street there, so that they can walk downtown to the farmer's market and back. So definitely would support that.
Thank you, Councillor Decker. Councillor DeRose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree 100% with Councillor Hanley. I know one of us, I don't know if it was me, but we brought it up a couple years ago, and as Jeff Holman said, due to COVID, it got put on the back burner. But I think it's a great initiative. It will stimulate downtown, I believe, on those days. They're fun to go to for the whole family. You can't beat it. The only one thing I have a question, Jeff, can you answer? Did we, when I forgot to ask this with the design of the park, did we put any electrical outlets where these vehicles could possibly park for any, or maybe Curtis can answer, or for any vendors that might need electricity?
Go ahead.
As far as refrigeration or what have you.
Curtis, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we did add some water sources and additional electrical outlets through the park. So we accommodated for that in the design, yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I look forward to this. That's great. Thank you. I will support it 100%. Thank you.
Councillor Hanley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the only issue actually is that, Mr. Mayor, is if I can't coordinate it, because I'm looking at it's going to be a process. But I know Jeff Holman, obviously Curtis Dray needs to be involved. Denise Delaney has reached out to me. I just talked to her again yesterday. We have people within the area and that stuff, suppliers, honey, individuals, so on and so forth, different directions. I've been talking with her about this for a significant amount of time, over a year. As Jeff said, we got a motion forward, so I can do it like we're doing it and go through you and try to coordinate it. But what I'm asking, if I need permission from council so that I could attend the meeting, possibly if we could arrange it. on a Friday, late afternoon or whatever, so that we can meet, or I could arrange to get the people together, because I'd like to be a part of it. I don't want to have to be excluded.
No, Councillor Hanley, I think we can make that happen. We'll work through the CAO on that, okay? I don't know if we need a notice of motion, because Jeff, we already have direction, like Councillor Senton said. How can,
Yeah, we done it, I think we done it in the spring, sorry, Ms. Mayor, I think we done it in the spring, just right in 2020, we had talked about it there before, and then because of COVID, we delayed it and that stuff,
Yeah.
because that Denise, or Renee Delaney was interested at the time, as Jeff said, and she just wanted to see if we could bring it back to fruition, so I go out there on Saturdays, and we had a discussion, I said I would bring it forward on the Tuesday.
So
Not to interrupt you, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
So can you, for starters, send me her contact information? I'll pass it on to Jeff and Curtis, and then we'll get the ball rolling, and then Jeff can bring a report back. Is that okay, Jeff? Okay, is that good, Councillor Hanley? So then you won't have to do notice of motion, okay?
Yes.
Because we've already given
I
staff
appreciate it,
direction
Thank
on
you very
this.
much.
We've already done that, so it's already on the book, okay?
Thank
Okay,
you.
anything else on that? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and due to Councillor Hanley being handcuffed in a couple ways, not literally, but I'll volunteer any time you need to help. Councillor Hanley and Mr. Mayor and Jeff and Curtis, being an avid gardener, taking it over from my dad, I love it. So any help you guys need, I'm there for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on now to delegations to report. And up first, we got Chris Green, Thorold Minor Baseball, and he's going to speak on PWCS 2022-22 DSBN Turf Field Proposal, Public Input and Next Steps. Chris, are you there? I see you're flying all the colors tonight.
Hey, got it. We got to represent, right?
You're looking good there.
Thanks, buddy. I got a haircut. So thanks for having me out here, folks. Appreciate it. I've got a presentation to go through. It won't be long. And then by all means, ask questions away. So I'm going to ask if I can share my screen here.
Is he capable? Yeah, you are.
Yep.
So if you do that, once you're up, I'll let you know you're good to go.
Perfect.
Okay, Chris, you're up, so you're good.
And you folks can see that?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So on behalf of Thorold Baseball, thank you for the opportunity to speak today and continue to show what Thorold Baseball has been up to. On behalf of Thorold Baseball and the hundreds of families that spend their summers with us on the Diamonds, we're thankful for the opportunity to speak at Thorold City Council. As you know, Thorold Minor Baseball embarked on a new path in November 2019 with a renewed focus on communications, community engagement, player, family experience, and development. And we've become what I believe and what we believe is the strongest small center in Niagara. Of course, there are a lot of people and groups to thank for this. The City of Thorold and the staff are one of the most important. Together, you folks have helped us reestablish Thorold Minor Baseball as a destination for players in and out of Niagara. Tonight, we want to talk to you about the exciting prospects of the new baseball facility Diamond proposed for the older players of Thorold Baseball. But we also want to give you insight into where Thorold Baseball stands and where we're going together. And I say together because it really is a partnership with the city, and those folks have been tremendous. So thanks again for the opportunity. Please feel free to ask any questions. And again, for those who don't know me, I'm Chris Green. I'm the president of Thorold Baseball. So I'll talk to the staff report piece that is in the package tonight. So in the option 3 piece that has been put forward. So Thorold Minor Baseball is in favor of the option 3 that was put forward by staff in the report. And here's a couple of reasons why, and then I'll get into some of the numbers why we think this makes a lot of sense. So a new facility for our 15U, 18U, and senior and the senior anchors is a very positive move. We believe in the planning, it would avoid scheduling issues with baseball, soccer, football, and DSBN. This would avoid conversion issues and fitting baseball into a plan that really is designed for football, soccer, and possibly a track. A new field could be grass or turf and installed with better drainage for less downtime while upgrading the aging infrastructure that we currently have at McMillan. The location would connect us to growing families. We all know that that area that they're recommending is there's a lot of young and up and coming families there. And it would have significant uses for Thorold Baseball to continue to progress its younger players to the older ages. The Diamond would require lighting to be fully viable, and I'll explain how that all works. And then Thorold Secondary would also then be able to get their the track that I know that they're interested in. I know the Thorold Track Club is in looking at things. So I think It would be the best of both worlds, as where there's a possibility of a new amenity for the city of Thorold, put on the map with the turf field piece, and then also still satisfy what we're looking for baseball. The diamond would continue to see overflow use, though, from our 11U and 13Us due to the current size and growth forecast in Thorold baseball. And when I say that, the bulk of our players are 13U and under, and you'll see these in the numbers. It's incredible how many young players we have and how that's going to transition through and keep us healthy moving forward. So like I said, we will need an additional field for 9U, 11U, 13U. And the distinction is those three groups can play on the same size diamond, as where they can't play on a 15U, 18U, or senior diamond. It's just not you can't accommodate the dimensions properly. Yeah, and then it's our hope that option 3, if option 3 were there, that we would also then be able to progress with plans for the largest area of our need, which is looking at a new field for those folks as well. So I'll walk you through some registering numbers. I like numbers. So here's our growth. 2018, we had 106 total baseball players across all the divisions. In 2019, we had 137. Now you'll see it drops down to 2020 in 89 players. But that's the first full year of COVID where baseball is heavily restricted. Baseball Ontario puts everything into a lockdown and says you can't do groups of bigger than 10. We sat down and found a way to make it work. We sat down with the city, came up with safety plans and a procedure. I like to think that we invented bucket ball, so every kid got a bucket, and we were able to space them out 6 feet for all their equipment. We could wipe everything down and spread them out. And we were actually able to run 90 kids out on the diamond. And we were the only center that kept going with our house league program until St. Catharines came on board in the beginning of August. We ran from June, July, just playing ourselves because no one else in Niagara had sat down and been able to work this through. And a lot of that was working through the city. So fast forward to last year, 2021, we see exponential growth, 176 players. Go to 2022, which is this season, we're projecting 220 players, and that's conservative. As of today, I'm at 212, and we know we're going to have more players. So looking at this trend going up, and the basis of this is the bottom filling, we bring in around 100 players at the 5U, 7U age, T-ball and junior rookie, that as we're building this experience and we're working with you folks, we're going to be able to retain these players and move them through the system where our numbers, and these are conservative. This doesn't assume any growth in any other divisions, just the bottom area. We could see ourselves close to 400 players by 2026. McMillan, we'll talk about the usage. And when I say McMillan, I mean 15U, 18U senior park. These numbers don't include the Thorold seniors. And Aaron has spoke to a number of folks about this, but what we need in 2022 is essentially 132 hours of diamond time for our system. And the benefit of that is that is not including us holding tournaments, because we held off waiting to see what was going to happen with ESPN and if the field was going to be good to go. We didn't book our 15U or 18U tournaments. Now that we know that it sounds like McMillan will be here for this year, we could probably go ahead and book those. That would go up to 184 hours of usage on the diamonds. And again, a lot of that is that overflow, 11U, 13U, having to practice at that diamond just because I don't have enough space for those kids right now. Our forecasted McMillan use, so looking at 2023 with tournaments and overflow, and knowing that our flow from 13U is going to move into 15U, we're going to need 236 hours at that size diamond. 2024, we think we'll see static growth between the year, but then we get to 2025. All of these young kids by 2025 are going to be in our 15U and 18U programs, and it's going to skyrocket. We're projecting that we'll have 3 teams at 15U, which means we'd probably also have an all-star team, and as well as the 18U. 296 hours on a diamond this size, and that doesn't include the Thorold anchors. So huge growth coming at this size of diamond. I'll talk about the demographics here. So right now, 5U and 7U, they play out of South Confed. 55% of our population in Thorold baseball is in this age group, but it's going to drop to 49%. It's going to drop a whole 5% next year, and those kids are going to move up into the 9, 11, and 13. That's going to move to 41% as of next year. And those people right now play at Sullivan and then Port Robinson, which we're really excited to be using this year. And we've already connected with some businesses there, and they can't wait to get us out there, especially Bridge 12. We met with those folks. They're going to set up ice cream deals and food deals. We're going to be out there 4 nights a week. They're going to love it. I already met with the owners there. Those guys are really, really good. Almost done here. A couple more slides. So 2022 versus 2023 needs and usable hours. And I define them as usable hours, and that how many hours can we play somewhere before the sun goes down if we don't have lights? So in 2022 on the left, Monday to Friday. And again, we try to avoid weekends because we know there's other user groups, but also we just know parents don't want to be out on the ball diamonds on the weekends. 28 hours a week is what we need. Currently, we've got 15 hours at Sullivan and 10 hours roughly at Port Robinson. Again, Port Robinson doesn't have lights. Sullivan does. So that 3 extra hours, and you'll see later, is an overflow. We have to put them on McMillan, which is not the right size diamond, not the right size mound. The bases are not long in the proper distance. So it's just pure practice, and we can modify it, but we can't play games there. So we're going to make it work. And we've worked with the city already to kind of figure out how we juggle this, but we need 28 hours a week, and we've only got 25 on the 2 diamonds. Fast forward to next year, as these 5U and 7U kids move up, we're going to go from 6 teams to 8 teams in these areas. We're going to need 32 hours a week. And again, lighting is a huge, huge issue. It's not a coincidence that the photo I used in the background here is Sullivan Park with lights on. There's a reason, because with lights, we can get 4 or 5 hours a night. Without lights, we can get 2. This is what our schedule roughly looks like. This is what I work with Stephanie and Curtis on, and I send this to them. You'll see there's not a lot of room in here. Now, Fridays we have cleared off, and you'll say, hey, you guys should use Fridays. We've got 2 teams that are going to be out of town for 4 Fridays. We've also got 3 tournaments we're hosting in town. They're going to take away Friday nights away. So we don't put things on Fridays regularly. We use it as overflow in case something gets rained out Monday to Thursday. Or if there's a holiday Monday, we move things to Friday. So that's why you'll see that. And like I said, we use those for, we run on a 12 to 13 week schedule based on the weather and how it goes. We try to get done by the 3rd week of August. If we can, we have OBA championships on Labor Day weekend. So last piece, in summary, again, Thorold Baseball, and I know the Thorold anchors, I've spoken to Aaron, they were supportive of option 3 put forward by the report from council. For Thorold Baseball itself, and again, senior anchors are separate from us, but we work together. This year, when we have 2 teams in a division, the second team is actually going to be called the junior anchors to really help connect those guys and help those guys out. So Thorold Baseball is in a rapid growth period. We have great quality diamonds. Sullivan Park is one of the best, if not the best diamond in Niagara for this age group. Everyone that comes there says it. The city does a great job. It is a great, great park. I love that it's located right in the residential area. It's got a really good community feel to it. The lighting at our diamonds is paramount to maximize their use. Sullivan Park and Port Robinson will be our most used diamonds in Thorold Baseball for the next 5 years, hands down. And our ability to recruit and attract 5 and 7U players is stockpiling our organization at the bottom. We have a tsunami of players coming through the system. I looked yesterday, and of our 85 kids at the 5 and 7U, 35 of them are first-time baseball players. Our goal is to make sure them lifelong baseball players. And in 2022, Thorold Baseball is returning to the All-Star Loop. So our 11U team will be in the All-Star Loop for the first time in 6 or 7 years. That's this logo here that I'm wearing tonight. It's our new logo for our rep team. It's also ironically the team that I coach, but it's going well. And the partnership with the anchors, Aaron is one of my assistant coaches. He doesn't have a kid on the team, but he's giving back to baseball, and he's one of my assistant coaches. Thorold Baseball's thriving. We're winning championships. We were in the finals in 4 out of 5 divisions last year that we played in. We won championships in 3 out of the 5, including our 9U program, which was a Thorold versus Thorold final. So we won gold and silver. They were the 2 best teams in the entire Niagara region at 9U. So we've got some really good players coming back, and they're having a lot of fun. And I'd be remiss if I didn't put a cute kid in front of you at the end. And if my son ever saw that I was using this in a public meeting, he'd probably get upset. But thank you, and honestly, come out and watch a game. I was kind of hoping the lockout was happening with baseball, so we'd be the only show in town. But hey, the Blue Jays are back, which is good. But come out and see us. We got a good thing going. So that is my presentation, folks.
Well, Chris, you know, when the Blue Jays are doing well, that more kids even sign up for ball, so it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
And so I'll open the floor if there's any questions here. Councillor Sentence, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chris, for coming. This is just fantastic to me, seeing the numbers go back up. There were people like Mr. Argentino, Freddie Matheson, who kept it alive when it was really lagging in other sports, and what you've done with it to take it from there, they deserve appreciation, and what you're doing is just fantastic. So, and our city staff have been great with you. I know a great partner with you as well. So this is just great to hear. The turf field, I just want to listen a little bit more. that place is special to me. So when I saw option 3, I was a little, all right. But I know you got to progress and you got to go forward. So I appreciate everything you do, and I'm willing to listen to everything that comes forward. So thanks again, Chris.
Okay, so basically here, just so everybody's aware, we're asking questions right now. You can speak when the report comes on the table. Any questions for Chris? Councillor Decker, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chris, great presentation. You speak quite fast, so I think I missed a few little things about an additional field. Where are you looking for an additional field? And second, the new field that they're looking to construct out in Rolling Meadows, will that have lights?
I can't speak to if without lights. If that's the option that goes, it will require lights. Those games are played at night. You can't play past 8 o'clock safely in the summer. Those are the older players. They generally start at 7 o'clock or later to play at night. So it would require lights. Where we require a new field, I'll take it anywhere in the city limits of Thorold. We need the space, and the city's working with us to do some upgrades to the field at Port Robinson, which is going to get us through this year for sure. But again, we're growing so fast, and I apologize, I spoke fast. I was told I had 10 minutes, so I was trying to get it in. So
yeah.
No, that's great. I didn't mind that. I just missed a few things.
Yep.
So in option 3 that you guys are looking at, I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity for us to say that then lights have to be included in this new field? I'm not sure if you can answer this question for me, or if it has to be Curtis or Jeff that would answer that question.
it would probably be a staff.
Yeah.
We would request as a user group that it has lights, but that's a staff question for
So
sure.
we'll do, okay. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Mr. Green. Chris, you can talk slow. We normally go till midnight. Don't worry about it.
Hey, the last time I talked to you was about buses at Brock. I don't do that anymore.
I know. I wasn't gonna bring that up, but you brought it up. So
I work at the hospital now. I don't work for Brock.
I know. Anyways, thanks for the presentation. Just some clarification, because you were going over some younger ages, and you almost made it sound like not only do you need a park, if we need a new senior park in Rolling Meadows, sounds like you need another park for our younger players also. Do I get that right?
Yeah, so the park, we need to have a McMillan Park, whether it's at McMillan or whether it's at Rolling Meadows, we need a park for those older kids because of the diamond size and the way baseball works. It's not like an arena where one size fits all. You need different sizes. We are stretched thin on diamond time and diamond availability right now for the bulk of our players, which is 9U, 11U, and 13U. We are going to be using Port Robinson as a second field, which is great. We didn't have that last year. It unfortunately does not have lights, so we'll have to kind of put the brakes on around 7:45, 8 o'clock to make sure that we're out of there before it gets too dark. The ideal situation is if somehow lights were to get there, or if we had an additional park built somewhere in Thorold for that size that had lights. That's what the lights are the most important part, is because you can play till 9 or 10 o'clock at night and get 2 games in instead of just 1 game on that diamond that night.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying that. Now, let's get to the topic of the night, if you don't mind, and that's what we're going to do, if anything, with McMillan Park. So to satisfy some needs there means we need to find another senior ballpark. So my question to you, and I'm not sure, well, you should be able to answer because you have some 15 and 18-year-olds.
Yep.
What do you need in a park? Not a if we could. I need to hear from you what you need, because why leave McMillan Park with lights and a great surface if you don't get the same thing in Rolling Meadows? So tell me what you need in terms of turf, lighting, drainage, amenities like washrooms, parking, and so on. What do you feel you would need?
So the issues currently at the current McMillan Park are the drainage is really bad at that diamond. Once it rains a little bit, that diamond's washed out.
Yep.
The second part, I think everyone knows, there's no parking at McMillan unless you're using the back of the Thorold High. The third part is if we were to have a new field, turf or grass regardless, proper drainage, dugouts, a facility or a storage area to keep equipment, a locker room for umpires, because at that age, You need to have the umpires away from the players. They're not kids umpiring games, they're adults. And you need lighting. You need lighting for that diamond for sure. And you need it to be enclosed as a fence so that when it's not being used by the user groups, people aren't out there with dirt bikes or ATVs like they are at Allenberg Park and tearing up the field. Yep, those are the items you need.
So give me your best case scenario in terms of the surface. What would a ball player want today? Would they want all turf? Would they want turf outfield, grass infield? Tell me what it is you would want.
I think that if it's a new facility, I think that if the drainage is done properly, then I think you can go grass. It would be the only turf baseball diamond in Niagara region. So if it was a turf field, so no one else has a turf baseball field. I'm not sure if there's advantages or disadvantages there. It's a different, you have to learn how to play on it. But for us, like I said, we're easygoing. We want to make sure that the facility works for our players and it's connected into the community for us. If they did the drainage properly and everything was great and was graded properly, you could go grass and dirt infield and you'd be perfect.
Okay, good. That's all I needed to know. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
sir.
Councillor.
Great
Longo.
job on the presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Chris, for all the work you do in Thorold on this baseball. Just a couple points. Back in the early 70s when Thorold had all these OBA champions, we used to play Saturday morning from 9 to 1. There used to be 8 Pee Wee teams playing. I was never good enough to play All-Star on those teams that won. But like, is there no way that we could structure a schedule so that, I understand parents don't want to play on the weekend, but maybe play one time during the week and then on a weekend, just to use that park time and maybe use those 4 hours up from 9 to 1?
Yeah, there's a possibility. We've also tried to avoid conflicting with soccer and conflicting with flag football. Flag football is massive. There are 500 kids playing in flag football in Niagara, and there's probably 200 or 300 from Thorold. So we work with those folks. That's also why we don't do Friday nights. Their house league program runs Friday nights, and it's run by a gentleman in Thorold. So we try to avoid those. The number one request on our registration when we put in what nights are not available for you, almost 85% of parents say that they can't play on weekends. And unfortunately in Niagara, baseball is not like hockey. Hockey is a life, baseball is a hobby for a lot of these folks for the summer. So we try to accommodate. We also know that we have 4 or 5 weekends of the year that those diamonds are used for tournaments that we can't use anyways. So when we have to, we can use the weekends, but we try to avoid it at all costs if we can.
Okay, one other point. The old park at the, Councillor Sentence and myself approached the people at the old Ontario paper mill at that Wrigley Field. It's 280 down the lines. Would U13 be able to play there and U11?
The diamond sizing is all based on where the mound is located for those ages, for the pitching
Okay,
mound.
so I guess what I'll ask for support from other councillors, if our staff could approach the mill and maybe it would probably be about 50 grand to put into that mill, but I mean, the land is there, the fencing is there. They were last year all for letting the city use it as long as they put the money into the park and maintained it. I don't know if that option's still there. Councilor Sentence might be able to find out, but we did approach the gentleman at one time, and he was he liked the idea actually of putting his name forward as donating back to the city and helping out. So maybe we need a report on how much it would cost to get that baseball diamond back in shape.
Yeah.
And then possibly use it.
Yeah, Councilor Sentence and I spoke about that last year. My only concern is, I played there in high school as well. I played there actually with your boy Eddie. So the issue is, I think it's 2022, and I'm not sure the backdrop of a highly smokestacked mill is the great backdrop for youth baseball. And I'm pretty sure the environmental assessment in that ground is probably gonna be more than repairing it to put it back to baseball. So that's my only concern with that location, is I'm not sure that's the look and feel we're going for, but yeah.
Okay. As far as the backdrop goes, the mills and those stacks are pretty well all going to come down, except where Councilor Sentence works. in that one department, but the rest of them are all coming down. So the backtrack won't be there. I think they're gonna clean it up. And, I mean, if your group's not interested in using the park, it would be a waste of time, but I think we should find out how much it would cost, and if we could, like I say, the fencing alone, and the diamond and the setup is there for a 280 feet, baseball diamond.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Yeah, Chris, great presentation for sure. You know, I've had the privilege of living across the street from McMillan for 38 years. So I've seen a lot of baseball, a lot of football. I've seen a lot of use in that park. Some may not remember, but there was actually 2 diamonds at McMillan Park at one time. But anyways, to ask you, have you ever considered using McAdam Park in Thorold South? There's a ball diamond there. You know, we could, if we needed to put some benches or whatever, but it hasn't been maintained 100% over the years, but there is an existing ball diamond at McAdam Park.
So I can look at it for sure. Is it completely enclosed by fencing, or is it open?
It is open, I believe. Yeah, it's open, but you know what? If we're looking at, you know, because I'll tell you, not to discuss it, we can look at it in a further point. I'll wait that for discussion period.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot to say about the ball diamonds and that stuff in regards to where we're going and that stuff. So I'm waiting actually for the end report to come, because I'm going to make comments more than on what we just mentioned there. But if you could possibly look into using McAdam Park in the interim, as Port Robinson, it doesn't have a fence. Port Robinson does near the canal. McAdam Park also has a washroom facility that was built there in 2016-17. That's a public facility. So it would be feasible there, whereas I know Councillor Kenny and Councillor Senton in regards to the Ontario Paper Mill, I don't believe there's public washrooms there. And seeing what we just got through as far as COVID goes, so that's it, you know, everybody's comment. But I'll wait until the report is done and I'll make more comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? Okay, Chris. Chris, I can remember a time, I'll tell you, arguably when I grew up, baseball was bigger than hockey in Thorold. Or equally as popular. It was unbelievable, the quality too. So it's good to see where Thorold baseball's heading, and we really appreciate all the work you and your group are doing. So thank you for coming to council this evening.
Thanks for having us, folks. And again, come out and see us this summer. It's some of the best baseball you'll get to watch.
Okay, so up next I have Jean Citrigno from Thorold Soccer Club to speak on the same report. And is Jean there? Jean there? Jean, can you turn on your camera? There you are.
Here I am, guys. Here I am.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jean. Thanks for coming to council this evening, and we look forward to your presentation.
Good evening. I don't know, I won't be able to keep up with Chris's presentation tonight, but we're just going to talk about the Thorold Soccer Club's view on the proposal from the DSBN. Good evening, Mr. Ugolini and councillors. I'm sure most of you know who I am. I'm currently the president of the Thorold Soccer Club. My name is Jean Citrigno. First off, I want to thank Jeff and Curtis for the great job they did in presenting this proposal to the soccer club. They asked us what we needed and what we wanted and what we need in the future. And when they brought up the proposal of the turf field possibly coming to fruition, we were very excited. I've been trying to work with the Catholic School Board for the last 5 years to see if they were interested in building a turf field, possibly at Monsignor Clancy, and it just wasn't in the plans. So when we were shown the proposal for the turf field, again, we were extremely excited. a lot of clubs in Niagara have access to turf fields for soccer. I'm going to kind of give you a couple ideas why the turf field are essential for soccer going forward. Things have changed in soccer drastically with sizing of fields for different age groups. If you've been to Seagross, it's people love playing at Seagross because it's a field that's grass. It's got great lighting. It's got a clubhouse. The problem we're having there is the field is deteriorating and the drainage is not very good. So when it rains, say at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it rains pretty good, the city will make a call and they'll call me and they'll call our field scheduler and they'll say, we've got to close the field. It's very, very disappointing, especially when we have to call other centers to tell them that we can't play because the field is saturated. Currently, we use Seagross for most of our soccer with practices held at South Confed and at Rolling Meadows. So only when we can count on Mother Nature, I guess, to give us a dry and warm weather, we're able to use the fields from May. Usually we start at the end of May and we're done by Labor Day. The turf field would allow us many things. We are currently unable to hold tournaments. We're currently unable to extend our season. We would have less cancellations due to rain. Obviously, if it's thunder and lightning, well, we don't play. Provide a better program. The big thing with competitive soccer right now is they do a lot of training in the early spring and the late fall. And what's happening is our competitive teams are declining, although our recreational teams are growing. So, but we'd like to get our competitive teams back to where they were. And I think the turf field is going to help us greatly. The amenities that we can offer to the competitive players is they want to play on turf field. So when Jeff and Curtis brought this to our attention, again, we're extremely excited for this opportunity. I just want you guys to think out of the box here. Maybe implore you guys to not let this opportunity pass us by. We have this offer from the DSPN. I mean, it's up to you guys how it's done, but I think if we lose this opportunity to put a turf field, and I'm talking about soccer here in the city of Thorold, we're going to miss out. So I told Jeff and Curtis I would be glad to share or sit on any committees to help to get this done. Many other communities in Niagara have them. St. Catharines has a couple. Welland has one. Pelham has one. Beamsville has one. So, again, the opportunity is in front of us. I think it would be a shame to pass it by. And if we could figure out a way to get this done, it would grow the game. We have 400 kids playing recreational soccer in Thorold. We have 100 to 150 playing competitive soccer. We get this turf field, we can grow this organization. Back in the 70s and 80s, we had over 1,000. So again, I would like to thank you guys to consider this. If you have any questions, I'll certainly try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene, for coming to council, and thank you for your passion. I'm going to open the floor up for questions. Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Thanks, Gene, for coming tonight. I would love to get it back to the 70s and 80s, and you never know with Thorold growing, it's a possibility. So I'm really appreciative, as other soccer enthusiasts are, for your enthusiasm. Thank you. And I agree. A turf field would be a great advantage to Thorold Soccer Club. Thanks for your presentation, Gene. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks for coming, Gene. I appreciate it. There's another guy who holds the line for hockey and for soccer, you know, with all these other sports coming on and holding the line until it can grow. So thank you, Gene. Thank you, staff. I really appreciate that. My question, because I know I didn't have a question last time, would be, so in our talks, you believe that a turf field would greatly help your association retain players and bring players back to Thorold, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor Sentence. The problem with soccer, it's not like hockey. Soccer, and I'm talking competitive soccer, there are no boundaries. So basically you have to sell to the parents or to the player why you want them to play at your club. And the first thing is the amenities. They want good fields. They want good uniforms. They want good coaches. They want good equipment. We have all that, except the field. The turf field would be the icing on the cake for us to retain our players. We do have some of our competitive players playing in other municipalities because of that reason, because they can play and they can train and they can develop in the months of March, April, September, October, November. Obviously, we don't have that opportunity here. And I think turf field, if the school board is going to be on board, a partner with the city, and where like option three would be what the Thorold Soccer Club would endorse, but we would endorse any opportunity to get a turf field in the city of Thorold.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. And I personally, I think we can get something done. So thank you very much.
Councillor Kenny.
First of all, thanks, Gene, for all your work, both hockey and soccer. Do you see any conflicts in your scheduling with the high school as far as your schedule goes? Like you guys start up in, I know you said off-season training, but as far as the field goes for, say, April to Labor Day, do you foresee any problems with the times when they're using the field?
I don't see too many conflicts for the majority part of our season because, you know, our bulk of our season is June to August, the beginning of June to the end of August. There may be some conflicts in the early spring and the late fall, but that's when it slows down a little bit. We don't have as many games. It's more training and development at those times.
Okay, I guess my next question would be to staff. Have we made sure that Chris Green and Gene here down the road are going to be involved with DSBN as far as scheduling goes and making sure that I guess more Gene for the soccer part gets the time that he needs, or has some kind of commitment from the high school that he's going to get some time?
Well, I think you can ask that question when the report comes on the floor, Councillor Kenny. Okay? Who else has got their hand up here? I got Councillor Longo and then Councillor Hanley and Councillor Decker, Councillor Neal. I'll start with Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Citrigno. Mr. Citrigno, can you explain to me how it works in Thorold with cost of soccer? Like right now you're playing at CE Gross, you say most of the time. So are you renting that field from the city of Thorold? How does it work?
So so I've been involved in the soccer club almost 15 years now. So there is no cost to the club for field time. It is given to us through the grant application every year. So it's basically the field usage is in our in-kind grant that we apply for on a yearly basis. And doing some investigation, talking to some past presidents back, going previous to my time, it was always that there was no cost to the club for the usage of the field at Seagross and South Confederation.
Okay, so I imagine then that's something you would like to see continue if you were playing on a new turf field at the former McMillan Park.
We would love to see that, yes. We would hope that our grants would cover the cost of the usage of that, but we are realistic that if there are, we could get some preferred rates if that's what it has to be, or we would appreciate the grant, but if there are some costs, that we would get some preferred rates and preferred bookings.
Okay. Your senior men's leagues, they must pay, I would think.
So we're not affiliated with senior men's, but I could tell you that they pay for the rental of the field at Seagross.
Okay, great. Can you just give me a brief overview of what you expect to see with soccer in Thorold in terms of number of players, growth, demographics, what you see for the future? Do you see a growth or decline, or?
Well, our growth in our recreational aspect is unbelievable. Like 10 years ago, I used to go to the field and I knew everybody. Even last year in our COVID shortened season, there were so many people that were registered for soccer that I never seen before, and they were all from the city of Thorold. So we are growing, we are diversifying big time. Like I said, our travel program is hurting a little bit, our competitive program, and like I said, the turf field would help that improve big time.
Okay. Question for you in terms of amenities. You mentioned how you need to kind of sell players to come and play in Thorold because of the amenities. So if we had a turf field, that would be great. But what else would you need near the turf field? Change rooms? What do you need there?
Well, I'll give you what we need, or what we would want. Obviously, we're going to need lighting. We're going to need washrooms, change rooms, and some storage facility. That would be probably the major things that we need there.
Okay, great. And one more question for you. Assuming we could work something out here and you had a turf field now at McMillan Park, would you need CE Gross any longer?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so there wouldn't be enough time there to cover everything you currently do at Gross.
Well, I'll explain something. Yeah, hopefully you guys understand. So in soccer, every age group, starting from U4 to U13. U13 is the first time you step on a full-size field. Okay, so that would be a full-size field is what Seagross is. So from U4 to U12, each age group has a different size field. So last year, the staff had to paint 5 different size fields on Seagross. So when the parents got there with the kids, you could imagine how confusing that was. So, and this is mandated by Ontario Soccer and Canada Soccer. So every age group plays with a different size field, a different size ball, and different size nets till they get to U13. once they get to U13, then they get on the full-size field with the full-size nets. So the turf field would help us take some pressure off CE Gross and help the grass heal, because now we're using it so much during the summer, it doesn't have time to recuperate, and it's failing quite rapidly.
Okay, so that brings, I guess, one more final question. So would you keep the younger players at CE Gross because of the less wear and tear?
That's correct. We'd probably keep the younger players at CE Gross and the older players on the turf field.
Okay.
But we would give the younger kids some opportunity to do some sessions on the turf field in regards to some development and training as well.
Okay, great. I think that's it. I appreciate your presentation and answering the questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Decker, did you have your hand up?
I did, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Jean, for your presentation, and it's always good to see you. Although Councillor Longo did ask the majority of the questions that I wanted to ask. So, yeah, I'd love to see a turf field in Thorold. I mean, I used to coach and play soccer at CE Gross, but, when my niece was young, we played in Niagara Falls on the turf field, and it's amazing. And I think that would be awesome for Thorold, and it would generate, more players to come and want to play here. So I think that would be awesome for the Thorold Soccer Club. So I don't have any questions because they were answered. So let's hope that comes to fruition for us. So thanks, Jean.
Is there anyone else that has questions? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Jean. Maybe a quick question. You were talking about CE Gross Park, so obviously we're going to have to make sure it's upgraded a bit for the next coming year. And Rolling Meadows, I noticed that you do play at Rolling Meadows sometimes. Is that something that maybe we could include in upgrading as far as soccer is concerned?
That's a great question, Councillor Neal. When the development was first started, we were approached by the developer and asked us if he asked us if we would be interested in bringing some kids out there to play soccer and the use of the field there. We agreed that we could use it, but only for practice. We could never have games out there because there were no washroom facilities. The parking was an issue. There were no lights. But the developer was welcoming. He let us practice out there. And to tell you the truth, the parents and the younger children enjoy their time going out there to have practices.
Thank you.
Thank you. And is there anyone else? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Gene, have you approached the city about putting Johnny on the spot there? If we could use that practice field for practice, and you think it might work, we could get a Johnny on the spot there. More time on the field for kids is great.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. The only issue the developer had was not wanting to have too many teams there at one time because of the parking issue, because everybody was parking when you first go in there on both sides, and the residents were having a little issue. But for a washroom, that would probably be a great idea.
Thank you. Okay, Gene.
Mr. Mayor, if I could say one last thing.
Yes,
is that okay?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Again, I'd like to put this out to councilors and the mayor and Jeff and Curtis. The club and our executive are here. Whatever you guys need to make this happen, or you have any other questions, or you need our help on a committee or anything like that, we're more than welcome. We really want to see this happen, and if we could get it done, the children and the soccer club would be much appreciated. And City of Thorold is diversifying, it's growing, and I think this would be a great amenity for the city of Thorold. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Gene. We really appreciate that. Okay, I need can I get a mover and a seconder to move this report forward right now? I got a mover, Councillor Hanley, and a seconder, Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So we're gonna move PWCS 2022-22 DSBN turf field proposal. Public input and next steps. I got a mover, Councillor Neal, and a seconder, Councillor Hanley, and I'll turn this over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that the public input on the District School Board of Niagara, DSBN, proposed synthetic turf field at McMillan Park be received for information. And two, that council select option 3 as the preferred solution and direct staff to negotiate the terms of an agreement with DSBN in the long-term interest of the community.
Thank you, Jeff. Now I'll open the floor for comments and questions of staff. So go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff, my one concern, and I think Gene brought it up also, is there any way we can pinpoint exactly what the user fees will be if we do partner with this situation in the field? Only because at this moment, as Gene said, they get in-kind field usage from the city of Thorold. And soccer is a very low expense sport, so it allows lower income families to participate. So I'm just, if we can find out exactly what they're expecting in return for fees to play, because if it's too expensive, it's not going to work to their advantage. And you know, I'm hoping that they would just, you know, not have fees for that, as the turf field doesn't really need much grooming or you know, care as the grass field does. So if I can have what your thoughts on that are, and if you can put that in your notes, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is an important part of the decision to move forward is the negotiation of the community use of this facility moving forward, not just for a year or two, but over the long term. And I want to be careful that we don't start the negotiations with the SBN in public session, because there may be some things that we want to put on the table more strategically. But we recognize that McMillan Park is a gem for the community. It's got a lot of history there, and it's important to people. And that the use of the soccer fields and track, if that's the option, is important for the community, because it's a place where they can go and have both active and passive recreation. I think in our negotiations, and what I tried to get across in the report, was that part of this deal needs to include a long-term commitment to allow community groups to access this facility at little or no cost. So we understand those points, and in listening to Mr. Green and Mr. Citrigno, they know their stuff. They know what their utilization is going to be. We know that DSBN has published rates, and we can do some calculations, but I think in the long run, if we are interested in moving ahead with option 3, one of the key elements will be what we're able to negotiate for our user groups who need to use these facilities to keep their programs sustainable and to grow them the way they have planned.
Thanks for the answer, Jeff. Thank you.
Councillor Kenny.
Is it possible to put a motion on the floor that I'd like to nominate Councillor Sentence to meet with Jeff and the 3 user groups, that being Gene Citrigno, Chris Green, and I think it's Aaron McGinnis from the Anchors, see what their needs are, and then proceed to meet with DSBN and come back and tell us that everybody's happy after a meeting. Like, we have to have a process where we got to nail this stuff down. The fees and all that for not just next year, but for years to come, because we can't be, they can't hold the city user groups ransom 3 or 4 years from now. Like I think we'd be good to get some kind of agreement in place for a certain amount of time, with guaranteed rates for our user groups, and so they know where they are going down the road. And if they have to come to the city council in the future for money because of the rates, then they know well ahead of time, and it's set out. So I'm just thinking if Councillor Sentence and city staff,
well, just
or
let me ask staff where they think we need to be right now. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but do you, Jeff, where do you think that?
Well, it's always great to get direction from council when we're negotiating a deal, so that there is an opportunity to get the feedback from the people that we think can give us the best insight as to how the facility is going to be used and what the community needs. A negotiating team is a good way to go, because it gives us a couple of different ways to look at the situation. I don't know that it would be a good idea to focus too much on what we want to do, maybe with the proceeds, until we know what DSBN position is going to be with respect to the sale of the land or a long-term lease. And so it will be a little bit of back and forth. So it's nice to have a bigger team with a different set of eyes on the situation to help us get through the process.
So what would
I'll take your advice.
What would you think would be required?
Well, we have a good feeling from the group now. I think representation from a member of council would be helpful moving this forward, because they may be able to answer questions that are more political in nature, as opposed to the more technical approach that staff would be focused on.
Okay. Where's Councillor Kenny?
Well, I was just suggesting that we have a councillor meet with DSBN, and then report back to us, whether it's 1 or 2 councillors. I haven't got a problem with that.
Okay, so let's continue this debate, and then we'll wrap it up with that, okay? Let's keep going around.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. Councillor DeRose, and then Councillor Hanley.
Through Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would support Councillor's sentence, but can we also add a second councillor, maybe Councillor Longo also?
Well,
just to have just more eyes, more ears, and
we could absolutely we could absolutely add 2 councillors, but let's have a discussion, then we'll come back to who it is at the end of the discussion, okay?
Thank you.
But that's it's a good suggestion. Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr.
I can't, no, you're muted, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess it's discussion option time. You know, I read through it and I just have to read the last paragraph in that. And what I hear, what councilors are talking about here is where they say about these options have been prepared for council consideration so that staff can be directed to provide a formal response, which we're doing. Depending on the options selected, extensive work to confirm land valuation, capital and operating costs, project schedule, and design issues required. A formal agreement with DSBN will need to be approved by council within the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's my most concerning issue, Mr. Mayor.
Is the time.
The time. Thorold High's been here for 100 years, and I think we're rushing into it. It can wait in another year. Here we are in another situation, the sports facility. We have a lot of unanswered questions. We've heard from the proponents. We've heard about where we have a need for cricket. Well, I know we have a need for cricket. As Gene said, diversified community for sure. We have a need for extra baseball diamonds, basketball, flag football is mentioned, today by Chris and that stuff is regards to, we have just a conceptual drawing of a ball diamond at Rolling Meadows. We're rushing into one thing when we have a recreational plan that was looking at the big picture.
Okay,
And
let
now
me
we've
ask,
heard from the
Jeff.
user groups.
You
And,
want?
and I believe that to me, that I don't want it to make it, and I'll be honest with you, like it's going to be a political decision because we're coming into an area where we're getting into an election. When I see the 4 to 6 weeks, that's because council's going to be into a time frame of what they call a lame duck council, where we're not going to be have to make decisions. And I don't want it to be felt that I'm making a decision or being rushed into the decision because of pressure from one side to the other. And again, it comes down to a time frame. If we're going to do this, I think in a reasonable and a real perspective, because I look at just the conceptual drawing, the groundwork that needs to be done here at McMillan Park in regards to drainage. I've seen no drainage conceptual drawings is where we're going to put all the water, because currently right now the ground absorbs tens of thousands of gallons of water. When we go to an artificial field, that's going to be drained off and have to be pooled, be tens of thousands of gallons. We're going to have to extend the park where it currently is, and I went over there and tried to do with a transit. We're looking at a 7-foot difference at least in ground elevation from where the park exists now to where they have to extend it out to, and then building a new splash pad and a new playground facility further down, where there's another drop there currently of 6.5 feet that goes down into where a catch basin is behind the apartment building on St. David's Road. There's like a 13-foot difference in elevation there. And to think that construction can happen in the fall, I'm no expert, but I do work civil construction. There's going to have to be a lot of virgin soil brought in there. It's going to have to be compacted. And I think there's going to be a lot of unanswered and uncertainty here. I'm not against the project. I don't want it to be expedited through, so the 4 to 6 weeks time frame just doesn't work for me.
Councillor
we have just a few page report here.
Councillor Hanley,
I know it's only for information purposes.
let me
but
ask.
I don't want it to be discussed that we're going to be making a decision tonight, because it says here a formal agreement. I don't want to do a formal agreement in 4 to 6 weeks. There's too many unknowns.
So Councillor Hanley, Councillor Hanley, let me ask Jeff why that 4 to 6 weeks is there. That's the simple question. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Mayor, DSBN has asked that we give them some direction. There's a lot of questions, no doubt about it, not just on the construction side, but the operating side, and that's going to take some time. But they need us to give them some indication so that they can hire their engineers and do the detailed design, complete the cost estimates, and start the construction immediately after the football season, so that it can be ready to go for April, May of next year. There is a timeline, a window, if you will, of opportunity here that would also impact us if we were to try and build a new facility so that we didn't lose a year. So the suggestion of 4 to 6 weeks, if we need to take longer, then that's fine. We'll take as long as we need to work out the deal that works for everybody. But there is some sensitivity if we delay this thing for too long, because the DSBN is looking for at least some type of indication that it's worthwhile to go through the exercise to spend a couple of $100,000 on an engineering design for this facility. If we're not interested, then we'll tell them, and then they can move on to their next plan.
So if I follow up to that, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that. So am I on the understanding then, if we don't do this in 4 to 6 weeks, this opportunity be gone forever and we'll never be able to do it? I don't want to be given that thought that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. There's a time frame here. I'm getting the feeling, and I don't mean to be critical, that if I don't make the decision now or in the near future, that the opportunity to do this, then DSBN won't do it. See, that's what I don't like. It's like I'm being pressured here as a counselor, and don't take it personally or anything, but that's what I get. They say there's a time frame.
No,
And not to be ignorant or anything, don't get me wrong here. The school's been there for a long time. They've had a football program. I realize they've had to play at Richmond Street and that stuff, but this is the thing. I'm getting the impression that I need to rush the decision because they have a time frame to be met. Is that because they won't get financing, or the TSBN is saying if City of Thorold doesn't decide this in 2022, then it's a done deal? That's the feeling I get, I'm being honest.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, I can see how Councillor Handley would come to that conclusion. I don't think it's an ultimatum. I think it's an opportunity. They want to make this investment now for the future of their viability. I'll let DSBN speak for themselves. I'm not going to take their side. But I can tell you that they have been pressuring us for an answer one way or the next, which means that there's some sense of urgency to come back with a decision here, whether it's 4 or 6 weeks. Those are my numbers, not their numbers. I'm just looking at it from a constructability point of view and backing up the timelines and the amount of time they'll need to do some of those things that you talked about, Councillor, like the drainage analysis, the cut fill balance, and some of the, bringing in material. I hope I don't mislead you saying that it's now or never, because I don't believe that's the case. If it is, then we'll ask DSBN for clarification.
Okay, if I may, just one follow-up, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be done.
Yep.
Is that
Councillor, you're muted.
sorry? Then in that case with me, I look at this then before we decide anything. We need to decide whether or not we're selling the land or we're leasing it, and we go from there. So until we decide whether we're going to sell it or we're going to lease it, then doing everything else and saying for them to go ahead and or we give them permission, they start doing all this planning, because when I read it, if one councillor says that they don't want to sell the land, it has to be a unanimous decision. All that work's gone to the wayside anyways. It'll be all done for nothing. So I think what we need to first do as a councillor, just my thought, is we need to come to either to a lease agreement or a sale agreement first before we proceed any which way soever, just because of that clause that's in there. If one councillor says no at the end of the day, it's a done deal, and I don't want to see them go out and spend $200,000, $300,000, and it comes down to a vote, and someone says, I'm against it. So I think, as a councillor, whatever direction council wants to take, we need to decide first whether we're selling the land or we're leasing the land, then move from there. That's just my opinion.
Jeff,
I have no other questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. And Jeff, that's part of the discussions, the detailed discussions, am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I agree that that's part of the discussions until Jeff comes back with a proposal from what the school board would like, and incorporating the two gentlemen that came forward tonight on their particular position on what they would like to see utilized at McMillan Park. I think we should allow our staff to sit down with them along with two councillors, and I like that idea, and come back with a proposal or not a proposal, or come back with a revised program on what we as a city council would like to see happen there. I think it's a great proposal, but there are, as Councillor Handley mentioned, there are a number of issues that need to be addressed before we make a final decision on this. But I think we should move forward and give the school board an indication that we are looking forward to negotiating with them and maybe come to a good agreement on this football field and track field.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question to Jeff, if I could. My understanding is we're looking at this, we're putting option 3 forward, but nothing is written in concrete. We still have to get in a room with them. We still have to figure some things out. We can ask Councillor Handley's questions. We can figure out their timeline, their reasoning, and sale, lease, all that stuff. This is just getting us into a negotiation with them to hopefully, get something go forward. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. This is just high-level direction at this point, understanding that there's some complexities here, but a lot of these things that we're going to be looking for, like appraisals and things like that, are also things that they need to satisfy their, the Board of Education and the Ministry of Education. So, I think a lot of things line up before we get to the point where we're actually signing a deal. And it's going to take a bit of time.
Okay, then I agree with this report. I agree with Councillor Hanley's, fears as well, but I think through negotiation, we can start that process. So thank you very much.
Okay, so we have any more questions before we had okay, go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start by saying conceptually, this is what's best for the youth of Thorold. There's no question about it in my mind, because we would increase our recreational amenities. But there are so many unanswered questions here that I just want to make sure that if we give the DSBN an indication that we are interested in discussing, that doesn't commit us to anything. Nothing in the future until we get to that point, because this has happened to us before. And again, I want to be clear with them that let's sit down, let's talk, let's negotiate, but don't get carried away and don't start spending money until we have an agreement with all of council.
Is that,
because again, there's so many unanswered questions. I'm going to ask two quick ones to staff. I don't know if they can answer. What would the cost be to build this park in Port Robinson the way Chris Green wants it? Do we have any idea? And if staff doesn't, I appreciate that because it's early.
I don't have an answer for you.
That's
Sorry.
great. And one more question. Does staff know the cost to turf CE Gross Field if we chose to do that? And again, I know staff doesn't. And the reason I ask these questions is because these are things we need to know going forward. There's a million other questions here. So I'll vote in favor of supporting option 3. I don't think the way it's written though, because it sounds like we're committing to selling. I think we're committing to moving forward with the concept through discussion. But I don't think they'll be able to meet the 4 to 6 week time frame. I don't want to sound negative, but it's a lot of work and a lot of discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Hey, Councillor Kenny, are you up again? Go ahead.
I just want to know if I could put that motion back on the floor. That our staff, Jeff, and whoever he deems necessary with Councillor Sentence, and if Councillor Longo meet and bring us back a report, and then we vote on the option then.
Is that how you want it worded? It's Councillor, Jeff, how would you like that worded? Because I want to make sure I got it right. That we have the two councillors' names put forward is Councillor Longo and Councillor Sentence, and then we'll vote on that because that'll be separate. That they work with your group and whoever else you need. You know, you can pull in baseball and soccer as you need them and move forward. Is that the best, how do you want that?
Mr. Mayor, I think that's appropriate the way you had it worded. The only thing you might want to add is that the negotiating team provide the rest of council with regular updates in case there's new information or other direction that might need to take place.
Absolutely. Okay. You got that added, Joanne? Okay, so what do you have there? So I want to make sure all of council's happy with it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the motion on the floor by Councillor Kenny is that a negotiating committee be formed with the user groups that are affected by this field, and that the user group provide council with regular updates.
No, and two councillors.
Okay.
Two councillors, and the names put forward were Councillor Sentence and Councillor Longo. We'll do that. That's going to be point 3, is that we'll vote on that first, okay? If you got that now, so read it again.
That the negotiating committee, which encompasses the two councillors, which is Councillor Sentence and Councillor Longo, if they accept.
Yeah.
And the user groups provide, and then they provide council with regular updates with
Okay.
regards to the
And
field.
appropriate user groups, okay? Okay, that's gonna be item 3, on the motion. We'll vote on that first. First of all, is everybody good with Counselor Longo and Counselor Sentence, and are they willing to sit on that committee? Counselor Sentence, are you willing to? Counselor
Yeah,
Longo, are
absolutely.
you willing to?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we have 2 names. Counselor Hanley, did you want to say something about that?
Endorse both candidates.
Okay, so those are the 2 candidates' name. Is everybody good with that? Okay, so that's part 3 of the motion, that we had a mover, Counselor Neal, and a seconder, Counselor Hanley, on the whole motion. This is the amendment to the motion, which is part 3. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now the motion as read, and we wanted to change something, amend something in part 2. Counselor Longo, you mentioned something about part 2.
The only thing, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure that we're not bound to anything legally. These are just discussions.
Jeff, can you respond to that?
Mr. Mayor, we're not agreeing to anything either directly or in principle. All we're doing is getting direction to negotiate. So if we're unable to negotiate anything, then that's fine.
And then if you do, it comes back to council
And
anyway.
if we do, it has to come back to council, exactly.
Okay, so everybody good with that? So we're now gonna move the rest of the motion. Mover, Counselor Neal, seconder, Counselor Hanley. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Very good discussion, and I look forward to hearing back from the group. There's a lot of work ahead to make that happen for sure. Okay, I also now, because they've been waiting, I want a motion again to move another discussion report forward. PWCS 2022-23, Thorold Senior Citizen Center Association Financial Assistance. Can I get a mover and a seconder to move that forward? Got Counselor Hanley moving it, Counselor Sentence seconding it. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so on the motion, I got a mover, Counselor Longo, and a seconder, Counselor Decker, and I'm going to turn this over again to Jeff Holman, but I just want to add that, just so council's aware, Elaine D'Amico and Rick Westlake from the Thorold Senior Center will not be presenting, but are here to answer questions of council. So once the motion's on the floor, they can be included in any questions from council, okay, if you require that. Okay, Jeff, I'll turn that over to you.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I can't seem to get my my report.
You want me to read it, if you can't?
Yes, if you could, please. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'd mover, Counselor Longo, seconder, Counselor Decker, that the council of the city of Thorold agrees to set aside the lease agreement with the Thorold Senior Citizens Association, number 1. Number 2, that the council of the city of Thorold approve financial assistance in the amount of $14,323 for a payroll overrun funded as a 2021 general budget overrun. Number 3, that the council of the city of Thorold approve the foregone rent in the amount of $1,500 funded as a 2021 COVID expense. Number 4, that the council of the city of Thorold direct staff to enter into negotiations to review options to assist the Thorold Senior Citizens Association in developing new programs and review their financial model beyond the current lease expiring in December 2023. That the mayor and clerk are authorized to execute the necessary agreements and contracts. And now I'll open the floor up for questions, discussions, not only of our staff, but also Elaine and Rick. Okay, go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Elaine and Rick. Thanks for being here. Can you just give us an update of, I'm just curious of the active members, the amount, and just, I've never asked this, but the cutoff age, what is the age where you actually can be considered a senior at the center? So just two questions. Thank you so much.
And I'll let Elaine answer. I think it's 50 and over, but I'll let her answer that and she can give you the.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councilors, our age starts at 50. Our current membership is 125 and growing again. We lost about half our membership to either death, moving because of their ages. They have moved into homes or they've moved in with relatives out of town. We have been constantly trying to start new programs. We did get a federal grant for QBs, and they have been in use quite a bit because a lot of our seniors are, most of our seniors are probably 70 and over, more so to the 80 age group. So they've been using they've come in and used the QB machines to exercise their legs without any stress on their joints. So that's been a big development. We brought in an arts and crafts teacher recently. We are now paying our instructors. Up to now, they were all volunteers, and it was becoming very difficult to get qualified people. So we worked with the Thorold Community Activities Group, and we got some of their instructors to come and do classes at our location.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you so much.
I guess I'm old enough now to join.
You can
You
join.
certainly are, and we will take you in.
I thought you were gonna say 65, but thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, just a quick one in regarding 2022, where we're looking at giving you funds for 2021. Are you needing funds for 2022?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Neal, we are trying very hard we have raised our annual fees from $45 to $120. So we are attempting to get those funds up. We are getting new members on a daily basis. We are doing some advertising in the new sections of Thorold over on off Merritt Road. There is a huge seniors population that has moved down here from Toronto, from Hamilton. So we've been getting 5 to 10 calls a day recently from those areas. We just have to get a good map to get them to our location, because we've tried to explain it and they just can't figure out how to get down the 406 to get to us. There's a big population in Port Robinson as well. So we are, President Rink has come on board and he is designing a new pamphlet with a good map in it. And we're going to get that distributed to those areas. So hopefully they will be able to find us. And we're going to do as much as we can to raise awareness of the center.
Go ahead, Councillor Neal, continue.
Yeah, my next question is, are you working with groups like the TCAG and of course the city of Thorold regarding making it a viable program again at the Thorold Senior Center?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Councillor Neal, we have been actually negotiating with city officials and the TCAG and working on some joint projects so that we can make it viable for everyone to come to the center, to build up the recreational facilities at the TCAG, bring more exercise, active living to the city of Thorold.
Thank you.
Councillor
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks for coming, Elaine and Rick. I think this is a reasonable ask, especially with the last 2 years of what we've gone through and what you volunteers have had to do. My question to you would be, are you fully open now? So people know, like, is there any restrictions at all?
Through the mayor, no, we have no physical restrictions at this point, other than our elevator is out, so they're having to come up the ramp, but it hasn't been too much of an issue just recently. We are, like I said, we are getting out there. We are providing more programs. We've just started an arts and craft session on Friday afternoons, which has been very well received. They can come in and do whatever art form they want. So it's not just restricted to one, water paints or something. The teacher is very good and she's teaching everybody at their own levels. We're trying to bring in a Zumba teacher. So we are working to get things done. We're having seminars again. So that's going to bring people in. We've got a fraud one on April 7th. So we are trying. We have Donnelly's Pub is doing our general meetings. So they're catering the meals, which have gone over very well.
Perfect. I think you're doing great. And I think with the combination of groups in the future, I think the future there is bright. Thank you.
Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Elaine. How are you doing?
I'm doing.
That was one of my questions. If you guys were looking to the future to maybe provide other programs that might pique the interest of younger seniors, for exercise programs and whatnot. So it sounds like you are partnering with some of the user groups like the TCAG and other groups to hopefully have that in the future. Because I know myself as a senior, I'd love to be able to go somewhere to exercise instead of going out of the area. So we are looking at stuff like that.
Thank you. Councillor DeRose.
Through Mr. Mayor. Elaine, one more question. Have you guys, with the new state-of-the-art wellness center that we're gonna have at the Canada Summer Games build, have you guys discussed any partnerships or ability to use what they have? Because they're going to have state-of-the-art equipment. And I just wondered if you guys have had an appetite for that, any discussions with them or proposals to put forth to them or discussions. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. We have been into discussions with a few organizations. The cost at the new center with Brock as well, because there are some of our members who are members at the Brock Wellness Center right now. They're charging, I think it's around $40 a month now. And a lot of the seniors at our location can't afford that. We do provide exercise programs. Like I said, we brought in the Cubies, which is it's a bicycle type thing, but you sit down to use it. We just had the Minister of Seniors Affairs at our location a couple of weeks ago, and they were very impressed with what we have. So we are working with Thorold Public Library to get some of their crafts and different things that they do that they don't really have a lot of room to do, but we can do them at the center. So we want to get the center utilized 7 days a week, 9 to 9 type of thing. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question to staff. Is there any way, since, we're a big investor in this Canada Summer Games build, is there any way whoever's on staff that deals with the consortium that we can see about getting that $40 a month reduced? That seems excessive for seniors. I'd appreciate any staff input. If it's not possible, it's not, but at least we can try. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny?
Mr. Mayor, is anybody on staff going to answer? Or?
Well, I was just gonna see if Councillor Kenny had an answer, and then I
Yeah,
was gonna go to
Yeah, I was in on some of the discussions on the cost of going out there. And the same people that want to go there for free are the same people that say, why is everything so expensive? So you can't get something for free and have somebody else paying for it. There's nothing free in life. So if somebody wants to use it, they have to pay for it. If they don't pay for it, other taxpayers pay for it. So the group voted, the people that used it were going to pay for it. Now, if you want to let them go for free, everybody else is going to pay for it.
Okay.
So Councillor DeRose, it's up to you which way you want to go.
Thank you.
I just assumed since we're already paying an arm and a leg for it.
That's an existing
facility.
That's an existing facility that already had a business model that's moving up there. So, you know, and they do a lot of rehabilitation as well. It's just that the wellness center does a lot of rehabilitation. So it's a different business model, Councillor Duro. Maria, go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, I just wanted to confirm what you were suggesting, Mr. Mayor. The Brock Wellness Center is actually a tenant of the building.
That's right.
It is not part of the consortium business. So therefore, the consortium cannot dictate what they charge because they are a tenant.
Thank you, Maria. Is that any further questions, Councillor DeRose?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Jeff, did you want to comment? Or no, you're good?
No, that's good.
Okay, and Councillor Decker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just Elaine didn't answer my question about offering programs that would maybe pique the interest of younger seniors to come to the center. Are you looking to partner with or collaborate with, you know, maybe the manager of recreation at the TCAG to offer programs that would maybe entice people to come to the center? And I don't have a problem paying, you know, $30 or $40 a month to come and work out at a facility. So I understand maybe some people do, but to me, that's pretty reasonable. So.
Through the mayor, I did kind of answer. I said we have partnered with TCAG, and we have partnered with the Thorold Public Library. We can only offer so much at our location. An expansion would be needed to the upstairs, possibly to put in a gym where there's, you know, elliptical machines or whatever machines they need. We have yoga equipment that we've just got through the grant. We have got large rubber yoga mats that we can put down on our shuffleboard floor to save it from being damaged. And we've moved chair yoga down there. So we are trying, and we ask our membership all the time, is if there's something you want to see here, please let us know so we can try and make those arrangements and work it around the schedule. We've had requests for line dancing, Zumba, which we are working on getting the teachers.
Yeah.
They've always been volunteer teachers up to now, but now we are paying the same rate that the TCAG does. So we are getting a few. Again, it's been a tough time getting these teachers to come in.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are moving in the right direction with Rick doing the new pamphlet. Perhaps he can post something, you know, through Facebook or maybe through the city website asking for feedback and, you know, letting, you know, the residents know what you guys are offering at the senior center as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Welcome. Any further questions? Thank you, Elaine. I think that the important thing is what you're doing there is important. And it's important for us as a community to start getting people downtown and running events, and then they get to know, what it's all about, and then they'll know where the senior center is. But it's a great building, a great facility, and I look forward to working with you as well as council to make it a success. Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Mover Councillor Longo and the seconder Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Now we're going to go back and finish our consent reports, or do our consent reports, and then come back to discussion report. And a mover, Councillor Wilson, seconder, Councillor Kenny, that council approve items 15B to 15F. Are there any items that you want to pull? Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have my e-scribe up. I can't figure out how to do both at the same time. But in 15D, I believe it's the letter that to support Ukraine that St. Catharines and Port Colborne did. I'd like us to send something too. I know we're a small community, but I think more voices are going to help or can't hurt in helping to voice our support for Ukraine with the atrocities that get worse every day. So I'd just like to send a letter like they sent.
So are we going to support their letter? A letter of support?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to get pulled, and we're going to support that letter. And we've already done we've already did a media release as well. Okay, yep. So I need a mover, Councillor Sentence. I need a seconder to support to pull the letter from the City of St. Catharines for support. I got Councillor Longo. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. So we've done that. The rest of the reports, again, 15B to 15F, other than that item, pull. Mover, Councillor Wilson, seconder, Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we're back on discussion reports. PWCS 2022-25 Senior Center Emergency Repairs to Elevator and Sump Pump. I got a mover, Councillor Sentence, seconder, Councillor DeRose, and I turn this over to Jeff Holman. Go ahead, Jeff. Jeff, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm having trouble with my.
Okay, I've got Joanne. She's going to read it. Deputy Clerk Joanne Goulet.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the recommendation of the report is that council approve an emergency elevator repair at the senior center. And number 2, that council award the elevator repairs to Cone Inc. in the amount of $24,518, HST excluded, funded from the municipal land and building reserves. And number 3, that council award the sump pump replacement to Complete Comfort Niagara Inc. in the amount of $2,226, HST excluded, to be funded from the municipal land and building reserves. And number 4, that council directs staff to provide staffing options to minimize these emergency repairs from council consideration in the 2023 budget deliberations as outlined in this report. This includes the report.
Thank you. And any questions for Jeff? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PDS 2022-09 Recommendation Report, Hansler Heights Phase 2 Plan of Subdivision and Subdivision Agreement. I have a mover, Councillor Hanley, seconder, Councillor Longo, and Denise, are you presenting this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Denise Landry, Manager of Planning. Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of the report are that Planning and Development Services Report PDS 2022-09 be received, that the final plan of subdivision for the Hansler Heights Phase 2 subdivision be approved, and that a bylaw authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the subdivision agreement for the Hansler Heights Phase 2 subdivision between the City of Thorold and 800-460 Ontario Limited be forwarded to council for approval. This concludes the report.
Thank you, Denise. Any questions for Denise? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Bylaw PDS 2022-14, Bylaw Enforcement Officer Contract. Mover Councillor DeRose, seconder Councillor Hanley, and Jason Simpson, our Chief Building Official, will present that. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the recommendations of this report are that the Planning and Development Services Report PDS 2022-14 be received. Recommendation 2, that council allow the current contract for a temporary bylaw enforcement officer to expire on April 1st, 2022. And recommendation 3, that council consider approving the recruitment of 1 parking enforcement officer under a temporary contract for 6 months commencing in September of 2022. And if I may, Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
I would like to bring to council's attention a correction that needs to be made to this report regarding the financials at the end. It's identified that there would be an estimated budget overrun should council approve the recruitment of a temporary parking enforcement officer in September. And that budget overrun would be $40,000 approximately. That should identify that it would be a budget overrun of approximately $25,000 with a pre-budget approval for 2023 of the remaining $15,000.
And can I ask a question? That would be without any revenue generated from parking tickets, am I correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I'll open the floor for questions. Councillor Hanley, go ahead.
So are we talking strictly parking, or, because we get a new situation now where they get pulled away and they get doing bylaws, so I'll support it if it's 100% dedicated to parking.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is absolutely the intent. I agree with Councillor Hanley's statement. We definitely need somebody who is dedicated to parking for that exact reason.
Therefore, I'll support it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jason. Jason, do we have anybody currently that's dedicated just to parking?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Wilson, no, we do not. Our bylaw officers that are currently on staff do everything: bylaw enforcement, residential rental licensing, and parking. Parking tends to be less of an urgency than everything else. So it tends to be overlooked, unfortunately.
Perfect, then I'll definitely support this.
Councillor Kenny, go ahead.
And my question to Jason would be, you're asking for this to start in September. Is there any way of tracking the amount of tickets I guess it's income that is brought in by this particular person, so that the next council, if you bring it forward, would know how much revenue is brought in from these parking tickets? If you ask this person where to stay on, is there a way of tracking it?
Through the mayor to Councillor Kenny, absolutely. We do have the software in place now to be able to identify the revenue, not only in total, but by officer. So that data would definitely be available to the next council.
Okay, can I ask you that you keep that in mind then, and keep track of it if we do pass this? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? The thing that I don't like in this motion, it says that council consider approving. Shouldn't we say council approve? Are you good? Councillor Hanley, go ahead. I think we should change that language to council approve. Is there any objection from council with that?
No, I agree, Mr. Mayor. Good point.
Does everybody agree with that friendly amendment, and then we'll put the whole thing on together? I got a mover then, Councillor Wilson, and a seconder, Councillor Hanley, for that friendly amendment to, instead of considering approving, to approve, okay? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Jason. PDS 2022-15, Recommendation Report, Rolling Meadows Phase 14 and 16, Official Plan Amendment, Item Number 6, Report Number PDS 2021-28. I have a mover, Councillor Kenny, and a seconder, Councillor Wilson. And once again, I'll turn this over to our Manager of Planning, Denise Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is being brought back to council as it was requested in December that this report be brought back at the end of Q1. The recommendations of the report are that Planning and Development Services Report PDS 2021-51 be received, and that the official plan amendment to change the designations of the subject lands as follows. From Rolling Meadows Village Square Commercial to Residential be approved. From Rolling Meadows Village Square Commercial to Open Space and Parks be approved. From institutional to residential be approved. From residential to institutional be approved. From residential to open space and parks be approved. And from open space and parks to residential be approved. This concludes the report. Thank you.
And now, are there questions for Denise? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Manager of Planning. I seem to recall, I know this has come to council twice, and the first time these items were pulled, they were going to be looked at. And then again, Councillor Sentence deferred this on December 21st, and the direction given to staff was to work with the developer and the area residents, because there are a number of area residents that are quite concerned about this. Have those meetings taken place with the area residents? Has there been any discussion?
Through the mayor to the councillor, there hasn't been any meetings with staff in the area residents. I can't speak to the developer and whether the developer has had any conversations, but staff have not. We've brought the report back, and we've also included the market study that was requested to be included as part of the report.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I know I spoke to the developer today, and he told me he hasn't spoken with the residents. That's my biggest concern here. These residents, a lot of them have purchased houses in the area expecting there to be a village square commercial area. This is stripping some of that away. My personal feeling is I think it's the last thing we should do, taking away commercial space in the city, where part of our mandate is to grow industrial, commercial, manufacturing areas, and this is a commercial village square. It helps with our tax base. I think it's short-sighted to turn it into residential. I think the last thing we need out there is a few more residential lots. It just doesn't make sense to me. And again, not talking to the residents, I'm really concerned that we haven't done that to let them know where things are at. So I won't support this. It's just the wrong way to go until we do everything properly, I think.
So what do you want to, do you want to refer it back to staff?
I don't think I can do anything because I spoke, but
no, you're right. I wouldn't let you, but I mean, I'm trying to look at the best path forward here. Is that what council wants to do? Refer this back to staff for more consultation? Go ahead, Councillor Hanley. All right, you're muted.
Seeing I hadn't spoken on the matter, and we could do that. Could we defer this back to staff and come back with a report where, as Councillor Longo had mentioned, we had previously asked that the public be involved in consultation with the process?
Right. So is it refer it back? Am I correct? We're not deferring. Refer it back to staff. So I have a seconder for that. Councillor Sentence. Any further discussion? No, there's no discussion on a referral, so I shouldn't have asked that, sorry. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay. Notices of motion. I got Councillor DeRose, go ahead. And Councillor Kenny, yours is going to go as well. Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. At the next meeting, I'd like to bring a motion forward regarding online voting for the next election. I would work with on the wording with the clerk
Okay,
in the next meeting.
yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Kenny, yours is going to be a notice motions to bring it to the next council meeting, correct, to the deputy clerk? Okay, you're good with that, Counselor Kenny? Counselor Kenny?
Yes, so what you're telling me is that all the counselors are gonna get a copy of the motion ahead of time, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
It'll be, okay, so that's that one. And I got Counselor Hanley.
Mr. Mayor, I know that it was brought up in regards to reconsideration to the purchasing of an ice servicing machine. It was put over that I could put in a notice of motion now to be brought to the next meeting. I'm withdrawing that request at this time, and we're sticking with the original decision by council to purchase the ice resurfacing machine.
Thank you, Counselor Hanley. Anything else? Okay. So we're going to move on to bylaws now. First reading of the bylaws. I got a mover, Counselor Neal, and a seconder, Counselor Decker, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Bylaw 18A, Bylaw 26, 2022, 18A2, Bylaw 30-2022, Bylaw 18A3, Bylaw 31-2022, and 18A4, which is Bylaw 33-2022. And that the same now be read a first time. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Final reading of the bylaws. I have a mover, Counselor Neal, seconder, Counselor Decker, that the bylaws just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I have a mover, Counselor Sentence, and a seconded by Counselor Longo, that we now move into closed session to discuss matters pertaining to identifiable individuals, appointment to committees, age-friendly ad hoc committee. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so log in.